Okay, freight brokers, today we're talking about the economy because we know as business owners, we must understand what's going on within the economy so that we can best set ourselves up to navigate whatever environment that exists, right? Whatever economic environment that exists. Right now, we're dealing with inflation. Inflation that's running at almost 8%. Numbers we haven't seen in the last 40 years. So we know if we're thinking with our right mind that we can't do the same things that we've been doing. We can't just act like this is business as usual because it's not. It's in a different environment. So in my opinion, we should have a specific plan, a plan to navigate the current environment. Not only are we looking at inflation right now, but some economists think that a recession is very likely, right? They're looking at what's happening within the Federal Reserve. They just raised rates, I think it was last week, 0.5 point. And of course, that will curb spending. That's what they want to do. They want to curb spending to try and bring down the inflation rate. But economists are saying that there are dangers with that because in curbing spending, it's also going to cause problems in other areas like housing, people buying automobiles. And when you have that, it could put some pressure on the overall economy and send us into a recession. And then there are others that say that a recession is inevitable. It's not a question of if it will happen. The question is when it will happen. And when we take a look at monetary policies of different administrations, when we look at America and how she has chosen to spend money and print money over the last 5, 10, 15 years, there's a clear indication that there definitely could be problems ahead. And one of those problems that could be awaiting America and our economy is a recession. So in today's video, I'll give you some tips on what you may want to do as a freight broker to help you navigate the current environment of inflation. And I'll also talk about some things that you might want to do to help you get prepared for what some say is inevitable, a recession. So now, why do you think we should be looking at ways to plan for inflation, plan for a recession? Why should we be doing that? Well, because businesses and people, when we go into recessions, when we go into inflationary periods, we look at ways of cutting our spending. Why? Because things are higher now, or you may be in a recessionary period and you don't have access to cash or credit like you once had. So spending kind of slows down, and that definitely will impact your business. So it just makes sense. It's in your best interest, the business's best interest, to prepare for uncertain times, to plan for those times, because they could offer some very tough times ahead. And it's better for us to have a plan than not have a plan when these times are present, right? So let's take a look at the first thing that I think is very important, probably what you want to focus on more so than anything else during tough times, or right before those times, I should say, is starting to prepare yourself. Self-development, self-improvement. Become a better salesperson. Start refining the overall you, because you are going to make the biggest difference, right? We also want to take a look at our business and what we're currently offering. We could be offering a full truckload service right now, but I'll tell you, especially when it comes down to businesses taking a look at their overall spending, they may want to decrease their freight spend. How can we decrease freight spend? Go from full truckloads sometimes to LTL loads, right? So you may want to start offering a LTL service, not just focused on one area, full truckload. You want to offer LTL services because that is going to give your shippers different options. Show that you have different options that can fix some of the problems that they might have. Help them in their freight spend, because that will be key as we move forward. When businesses start to, look to cut money, they look to cut money with employees. When you're looking at shippers, shippers look to cut money with freight spend, cutting down on the overall expenditure on freight. And what do you do when freight is not as available? Because we're having some of that right now. We're not seeing as much freight as we were seeing on a weekly basis. Things have slowed down. So what do you do when freight slows down and could possibly slow down even further when you have a recession on board? What do you do then? I would suggest that you start getting into contract on some of the freight that you're moving. Freight that you feel pretty comfortable with, that you've been moving for a little while, you're pretty sure of what you can get loads moved for from point A to point B, you are going to want to get into contract. You may even want to take some chances on other freight that you might not be so sure about to get some contracts locked up so you can assure yourself of constant freight. Freight is going to become a problem probably for most of us, if it's not already a problem, because spending is going to tighten. So having a different service like an LTL service, less than truckload freight movement, and then getting some of your freight under contract is definitely going to be in your best interest, especially during tough times. Because one thing that we know for certain, even in tough times, if we have consistent freight, we can weather the storm. Don't think that your shipper already knows something about you. You have to make sure that they know. For example, you could be moving lanes with this shipper in certain regions, certain areas, and they've been sending you those loads. You've been doing good on those loads, but now it's time for you to request more loads, more responsibility. So you need to start talking to your shippers about, hey, do you have any other lanes outside of the lanes that we've been getting to bid on? We provide FTL services in these regions too. We can cover other areas. So you have any freight that you might want us to take a look at? It's important now for you to accept more responsibility so you can get more loads. Because always remember that you probably are moving a very small fraction of that shipper's freight. In order to get more of the freight, you have to request more. You have to ask for more responsibility. Sometimes we wait and think the shipper is just going to come and say, oh, you've been doing pretty well, so we're going to give you additional lanes. Usually it doesn't work that way. You have to request, ask for the business. That's how it works. So the development and improvement of our overall skill set will be critically important to our success, because at the end of the day, it's skills, not anything else, it's skills that pay the bills. Next, what I want to talk about, because this is important too, we also want to take a look at our company, our business, and look at what type of debt we have, how much debt we have, and start to decrease our overall debt. Because it's going to cost you more to carry debt right now. Credit card debt is going to cost more. So we want to go ahead and start looking at those debts that we have and start taking a look at systematically decreasing those debts. If you have high interest debt, you want to start out probably with those first to get rid of those so you're not paying as much money to operate your business. Cost efficiency will be key. As we move forward, it's going to be key that we take a look at our overall cost and minimize those costs as much as possible. Next, you might want to take a look at your cash position after you've taken care of your debt. After you've gotten in a comfortable place with your debt, start building up your cash reserves, because that's going to help cushion your cash flow. It's very likely that your cash flow, the money that comes into your business on a month in and month out basis, is very likely that it may suffer a bit. So if you have adequate cash, you can kind of cushion your cash flow. At the end of the day, here's something that I want to share with you that I think is worth remembering. It's important that we understand what we choose when we choose business. Business will offer you challenges all along the way. Sometimes business will be good, and sometimes it won't be as good. It'll be bad. Sometimes you'll negotiate the boom periods and enjoy those periods and learn from them. And sometimes you'll have to handle bust periods, and you'll need to learn from those as well. I heard someone say once that weak people create bad times, and bad times create strong people, and strong people create good times. And they say that that's the history of the world. Throughout the world, you'll see that this has happened over and over and over again. The question is, which are you? Do you consider yourself a weak person or a strong person? If you are weak right now, are you willing to develop yourself and grow yourself into the strong person that you're capable of being? That's what I wanted to share with you today. I certainly hope this information has been helpful. If you're interested in learning more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series, and I titled it How the Load Movement Process Works. It will give you a chance to come into the office with me and watch me on video. as I move loads, talk to shippers and carriers to give you a better understanding of how the business works before you come into it. And then if you want to know how we go out and find the customers, the shippers that we do business with, I'll leave a free video right here detailing you, showing you exactly how that's done. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.